Hi, welcome to Not This Time with Jamie. I'm here again with Steve Hunter and my friend John. We're going to discuss a little more about the Liberal government and what they're doing here in Canada. So, John, tell me a little bit your thoughts about the push for the woke agenda. What's your thoughts on that?
It's terrible to say it, how it is. But we always had people who are different, which is okay. It always was the case, but they were never glorified, and celebrated like they do it now. Why is that? Nobody was hurting them, Why they say, okay, we want this, we want that, we want that.
Yeah, they had
all exactly they have all the privileges. Everything is by
There's no
you
couldn't discriminate against
exactly them. It's you cannot hurt somebody's feeling. What's that mean? That mean you cannot speak the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You must be shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And just be like okay, but that's how this works. It's terrible. So again, as I said already before, I had homosexual friends who are great people. They have, they're excellent. But they are against this, what is happening right now. They are completely against it.
It's not the homosexual community.
No.
You're opposed to the push that's being
exactly.
done.
Again,
they're teaching almost brainwashing kids into say getting trans surgery.
Yeah.
Is that
pornography in the
right?
schools? What does that mean? It's happening not just here. It's happening in Europe, everywhere. It's it's like an epidemic. Why we are supporting this? This will basically come to haunt us.
To me, it's why all the effort to promote their idealism and not just promote everybody's idealism.
Exactly.
I have nothing against anyone who's homosexual. They can do as they wish.
Exactly.
You're allowed to love whoever you wish to love, of course. But my problem is with the pushing it on the kids to the transgender part of it. And I know there's a lot of homosexual people who are against that as well because they can see that there's an agenda to it.
It's advertising. Once you advertise,
they are actually.
Once you advertise,
when you're 5 years old, how can you possibly?
They wouldn't even have known about any of it unless and advertising works, or else they.
I remember when I was 5,
So
I
as
never
soon as
thought
you-
of that kind of stuff at
Yeah,
all.
exactly. As soon as you start talking about it and you introduce it to a 5-year-old, well, then they're going to be interested. You could talk about worms. You could talk about bugs. They'd be interested in anything. They wouldn't even know about their sexuality. As far as I'm concerned,
Exactly.
that's all part of biology. If I'm going to start teaching children about sexuality, personally, I would start with biology, and I would start with your lungs and your skin and your body and your teeth and your diet. What goes in is good. You've got to put in nutrition and real facts to have a decent person growing up. And if we're not, if you're advertising, my children went to school and they said, well, we're teaching them about drugs because they're going to have to know about drugs. And my son came home and told me how we could make drugs. Up to that point, he was like 8 years old. Up to that point, he didn't even know they existed. So he didn't know if he wanted to be a fire truck or if he wanted to be a fireman or any of that. Then all of a sudden, he's like,
I wanted to be Batman when I was 5.
by the time he was 10, he wanted to own a hotel and sell weapons because that's what he had learned from television and school. He was going to be a gangster, and he's 10 years old. Thank goodness, he made it to 11 and he didn't own a hotel, and he doesn't. But that's all advertising, and it's putting all those thoughts in a child's head. Personally, I would start with, if I'm teaching a child biology, I'd start with the lungs, and I would start with, the kidneys and the brain and other things than just the sexual organs, just the sexuality, just the gender.
Something that they're not even dealing with at that age.
Your feet are very important parts of your body. Your brain, your eyes, your nose, your ears, they are all very important, just as important as our sexual organs, as far as I'm concerned. Your heart. very important part of your body, your lungs, everything we know that what we put in is what we have, what we are, right? And information, be it programming, be it some kind of agenda or somebody else's agenda. I liked what you said earlier. It was just a small percentage. It was just a small percentage, and normally we would do what's best for all,
Exactly.
unless of course you pick this one specific thing that we all hang off of the tree on, and now it's going to be all of that. We're all going to be fighting for this one person who didn't even want us to fight for them in the very first place. They were absolutely fine being themselves in their own skin without everybody having to be in their skin as well.
Exactly.
That's right.
Very difficult
You
to fight.
know when this started when mental patients get to the positions they shouldn't be in politics, in schools,
Well, we closed down a lot of asylums.
and
right?
this is how it started. They let them this mentally, I don't know,
That's who
challenged
gets
people.
promoted.
Exactly.
If you're not a pedophile, you don't get to the top.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know about that.
It's scary. No, it's
But
you know how pedophilia in the
Right.
United States is one of the biggest businesses.
Right.
We know that.
Jeffrey Epstein.
right, we know.
He's just
It
that-
didn't end with Jeffrey Epstein.
No.
I don't know how we
He's
jumped
just-
to that from the whole woke thing, but
Well,
you're
It's
right.
part of the same agenda.
There's definitely some
We-
kind of pedophilia.
we know
thing
how
going
many
on around the
children
world.
are
We
it's
do
all
know that.
advertising.
coming to US from
Yeah, we do know
outside
that's true.
and they are disappearing.
Yes.
And I don't want to even go what they are doing
Just
with
getting
them.
back to the woke thing, though.
I think
we
it's
exactly.
I think it's an industrial.
I've always my
assembly
problem is
line
why
of
are they
horror.
promoting all these sexual ideas with little children that really don't
It's
advertising.
advertising.
Don't even care about it. All they want to do is play with their friends, do some
wanna play.
finger painting,
They wanna play.
sing some songs,
Exactly.
go home and
Let them
play
be
on
kids.
their toys
Yeah.
at home,
And
and
watch-
get rid of a
and
fairy
watch
tale
and
before
follow
they
their
go to bed.
parents, right?
You know, maybe
Maybe-
watch some
Maybe
kids
the
shows on
reason
television.
they're doing it because they want to
But
divide
then
more.
they bring this
divide
idea into
more.
their heads
Big time.
and even coach them into
Mhm.
believing that they may be transsexual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've heard stories where the teacher says to the kids, "Can I get all the boys to raise their hands?" And then to say, "Can I get all the girls?" And then start asking them if they're sure they're a boy or a girl and why do they think they're a boy or a girl.
Yes.
And I mean, that's very confusing for a little child.
Of course, it's confusing for me.
You know, like,
Exactly.
being told the question at the age of like 5 or 6 that, "Are you sure you're a boy? Are you sure? What makes you sure
And
you're
how
a
do
boy?"
you question a teacher?
Yeah, well,
How
at
do
that
you
time,
question somebody in
at that
authority?
time, they're like God.
Well, it's hard enough to question a
they can
teacher.
do
now.
and
It
take
would
no
be hard
wrong.
enough to question the teacher.
I remember what I
now.
thought of my teachers at that age. They were all authority.
They are stealing
And,
those
that's-
kids from parents.
And so once they start telling the kid, say a little boy that you're actually a girl, the kid's going to start to believe it.
Yeah, if you can have if a child can have a sex change and the school can
And then the
help them
parents that are doing that
without
as well, you
telling the
see
parents.
You see parents tell them,
I know people don't think that's happening,
But
but
it is.
I've listened to court cases about that where the dad doesn't even have access to his son now because his son is transitioning and the dad is not happy about it. And I think the child was under 10.
there was a story of a woman and her daughter
I couldn't
transitioned and both at the same time into being males. And the woman swore up and down that she didn't influence her daughter at all. How can a mother not have any influence on their child? Really? Come on.
The little tape decks, the little parrots, they copy us like crazy. They learn
you're
from
little,
where
you're-
else are they
when
getting
you're
it?
little, your parents are everything.
Mhm.
And so the mother
should be.
starts to transition. Of course, the daughter's going to say, "I am too."
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
it's just anybody think it's otherwise.
And you know what scares me too? These doctors, they actually offering this,
Yeah.
to the kids.
Yep.
Let's do it because it's business.
Yes.
It comes to business again.
Yeah.
You know how this is possible.
It all comes down to you're selling a product. You want to create a market. War
Oh,
cells,
the medical,
war cells, and
the
medicine
medical
cells.
industry is making a fortune off it.
Yes.
I've seen things where hospitals gather the doctors together down in the
Testosterone
states
stuff,
where
sure.
hospitals are a business. They're not funded by the government.
Of course they are.
And the head of the hospital is telling the doctors to push trans surgery because it's big money for the hospital.
Sure.
But we're going to have to leave it there, guys. So thanks again for you both coming on. And thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Have a great day.